here. Shannon, hey guys, welcome back to the TED Show. It's Ted Bogert. I am so excited to have this young lady on. I love this topic, bloom where you are planted. And Shannan Lewis and I have a great friend at Jen DeVivo, and I'm just excited to have you on. She's got a book launch, Destiny in Disguise. There's so much going on, and so I'm excited, very excited to have you on the show, Shannon. Welcome.
Thank you. I am excited as well. Your energy is amazing.
Woo, we're going to do it today.
Yes.
Here we go, guys. So Shannan Lewis, tell us just for my Instagram people who are watching, what is your handle on Instagram?
My Instagram handle is I choose to bloom. The number two,
I
not the word.
choose to
To
bloom.
bloom.
It's Shannon's
Yes.
Instagram handle. I love
Yes,
it.
that is
All right.
correct.
So let's take a deep dive into you because people love to know about you, your origin story, a little bit about you. So tell us about the one and only Shannan Lewis and kind of
I
take us
love
on the journey on
I
how you
love it.
got here.
Yes, I am. I was born in Jamaica and migrated to the United States when I was 21 years old. I am a higher education professional. Worked in several college settings in the last few years. I'm a mommy of teenagers. Pray for me. You know how that is.
You need a cocktail, I think.
Ooh, let me tell you. Yes, mom of teenagers. I an educator, but I like to describe myself as a communicator. I believe I was born to communicate. I write and I speak a lot.
I
I
love
will
that
I
though.
will not apologize for that. It is
You
what it
should
is.
not. Your energy though is so amazing. Were you always like this? Like how? Like a lot of people, they come up and they either do the opposite of how they were raised, or they do the same because they were in a great environment. How did you kind of come up? Where does your energy come from?
Ted, I was a pastor's daughter in Jamaica, and let me tell you, the first time I had a microphone at 5 years old on a stage and I owned the audience, I was like, oh my God, I was born to do this.
Isn't it?
And so,
It's sort
yes,
of electrifying when you're on that stage and you get that
listen,
first
yes,
taste.
yes,
You're like,
yes,
woo,
yes.
I can do this.
Yes, and I did radio and television as a teenager, as a guest speaker, even as a teenager. So my entire life, I've just been exuding this energy. In my personal life, though, I'm an introvert. So I'm a high
Are you
functioning,
real? So you're one of those people I read
yeah,
about but don't believe
yeah,
exist. An,
yes,
an extrovert introvert or whatever they
I
call
am.
it.
I'm a high functioning extrovert, but in my personal quiet time, trust me, I just like my me time, my ooh, I just like the
You're
zen.
all zen. We're all
Yes,
zen. But
yes,
why this journey? So it's one thing to because what you've created is a brand, a message.
yes,
Everything's got the word bloom in it. Bloom where you're planted. I choose to bloom.
yes.
Where did that come from?
At 17 years old, my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and I was home with him on a Sunday. He was a pastor, but he couldn't preach anymore. He was close to dying, and I was close.
Wow.
I was with him that Sunday morning, and I heard a pastor on the radio use the phrase "bloom where you're planted," and somehow something resonated with my 17-year-old spirit. And that day, I adopted that as my life's philosophy. And I have been infusing that deliberately into everything I have done ever since.
What does
Honestly,
it mean? Tell us what that means to you
you know,
because I love it. Because I
yeah,
think people get so caught up in being in a million other places as to where they're supposed to be, where they've
yeah,
planted, and then they're always looking for the next thing. So talk a little bit about that this theme because I think it's really, really critical for people to hear.
and it's powerful, and it's been powerful for me in two ways. One, the choice that regardless of the situations and the circumstances that we are faced with in life, we have a choice as to how we're going to respond, react, or reply. And as to being planted, I think about positioning. It's like you plant a flower in a garden. It doesn't have a choice. It has to stay in that space until it blossoms and becomes. And so I have used that to recognize that instead of getting antsy about uncomfortable situations, positions at work or in the relationships where we are uncomfortable, I can decide to stay put, keep my feet planted, stay grounded, choose how to blossom and become a better version of myself in spite of and through it all. That's what
So
it means to
tell
me.
us, I love this because I think people get so caught up in comparing, especially social media, comparing
Yes,
themselves to other people. And so they don't like to be planted because they're looking for the next best thing, or, ooh, that person has amazing things going on in their lives. I want that. And so they get up, they pull up whatever roots they've started, because you start, right? You
exactly.
have to plant before you can bloom. And
Exactly.
so but they get so caught up in what the other people are doing instead of
Yes.
focusing on where they're at. So
Yes.
how do we help those people? What are some steps that you take when you're planted, and you are, and you want to bloom? What are some of the things that people can do?
What I do, I first recognize that I have a unique position and an opportunity. So I allow myself to focus on the opportunity in the situation, even if it's a negative situation. And I look for ways to be grateful. I also recognize that stability leads to growth and development and maturity. You cannot mature if you're not willing to stay firmly planted and positioned in order to gain and to give and then mature as a result of.
Wow. Okay. So you use the word mature, which
Yes.
probably scared about 90% of the people, including me. I think people think of maturity as lack of
Yeah.
creativity, getting old. I think there's so much to what you're saying.
Yeah.
You get mature in what I believe, what you know
Yeah.
are the things that you're supposed to do. You get more intentional, more
Yes.
purposeful.
Exactly. Exactly.
But a lot of people don't know how to define what that is. So you get planted. Let's say you're in whatever situation you're
Yeah.
in.
Let's say
What
a
do they
job.
need? What do you think they need to do? Like you've got, and we're going to talk about your book in just a little
Yeah.
bit too. But what can people do? Because we have a lot of questions going on. All right, I want to bloom. I don't know how.
I'll use myself as an example. After my cancer diagnosis, I lost both of my jobs. I was a professor and an admissions counselor. When I came back and I could work again, I could not function in those roles anymore. I got an entry level position, and what I had to do, I had to flip the switch in my mind to tell myself, first of all, you're alive. Cancer didn't take you out. And so
Amen.
being intentional about the opportunity that I was now given and choosing that every day I was going to develop as a professional. I was going to develop as a person. I was going to become a better version of who I was before cancer hit my life. That is how the maturity takes place. It's not just about growing in age, but it's growing in awareness of self and recognizing one's tenacity and resilience. It's recognizing the moments that call for centeredness and focus and being diligent to do the things that are required to ensure and enable that one growth. That's what I
She's
did.
good, guys. Listen, I'm talking to my Instagram family over here too. Jennifer, we love you too. She just posted.
Hey,
We love
Jen.
you both. Here's like I know this for a fact. I had cancer this year,
Oh,
and
wow.
so
I
I
did
had a
not know that.
diagnosis. And so you have to try to figure out, all right, is this going to take me, or what am I going to do with it? And so that's a diagnosis. That's almost like, okay, I'm planted there because I can't change the diagnosis in that
Right.
moment. So I have to
Right.
figure out what I'm going to do. How am I going to address that? How am I going to pivot? How am I going to look at things differently? And I have to say, it changed me. It
Hmm.
changed the way I looked at my surroundings, my environment. And then I decided, all right, this is a good thing for me. I think a lot of people are also confused about 2020, right? This has been a
Yes.
year of a crazy year, a year of challenges and people being furloughed and people trying to reevaluate relationships.
Yes.
And this is also something we've all had to deal with. So you've been planted in 2020. What you do with it and how you bloom in that, I think,
Yes.
is the amazing key to your message.
This is true. This is true because none of us saw this coming. When we greeted January 1st, 2020, nobody had any inkling that the the big ticket item was going to be toilet paper. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody could predict that we were going to be walking around with masks on, accessorizing and matching our outfits. We did not see that. However, once we realized that 2020 came with a mission, 2020 had an agenda. What I did, I had to recognize, first of all, Shannan, you've been here before, because I was initially triggered. I was like, this feels familiar. I went through this a few years ago with the mask and the gloves and the hand sanitizing and the isolation and no hugging and all that. And so
Yes.
I tapped into my my inner strength, and I recognized you have the ability to get through this. You just have to do it every day and be very intentional and purposeful. And
Yes.
yes, I do not want to minimize the lives that are lost, the lives that have been impacted, the people who have lost income and their livelihoods. And I would not minimize that. 2020 is vicious. But boy, it gave me the opportunity to decide how I was going to get through each week, how I was going to strategize differently, how I was going to adapt and adjust accordingly to ensure that my sanity would be intact and I would keep myself safe. Because listen, I am on that high vulnerable list. And so I had to choose how I was going to do that. And the truth is, Ted, I chose to be grateful. I chose
Yes.
to
Talk about
I
that.
chose to recognize the good things that happened. I chose to appreciate not having to get up in the morning to an alarm clock. I chose to recognize I didn't have to fight the hustle and bustle and traffic. I chose to look for the good things that were happening as a result of
People don't like that
that.
word choose. You know that, right?
Listen, but therein lies the decision to grow and to develop
Agreed.
and to mature, because the reality is we have no idea the path that our lives will take. And there are certain things we will not get through without maturity and without choosing the appropriate response.
I think people, because the word choose, it puts the onus back on you.
And
That
we don't
people are
want
very,
that.
we don't like that.
We don't like that. Mm-mm.
I want it to be everyone else's
It's
fault.
fault.
I
Yes,
want it to be the
we want
world's
to toss
fault.
the blame. Yeah, yeah. But the truth of the matter is, the older you get and the more you realize that when it's all said and done, we all have a responsibility for how we respond and how we react and how we maneuver and how we navigate the terrains of life. That's a fact. It really
Yes.
is. When it's all said and done, we can choose. We can choose.
So tell us why you choose gratitude. I've heard you mention it several times. I'm a big gratitude person. I think that has been life changing for me. But people, first of all, believe that they are grateful. But it's not an intentional gratitude. Talk about what your practices are and why that's so important to you.
I like to call myself God's grown up grateful girl. And I do that because I realize that sometimes if we're not careful, we live life entitled. We act as though life owes us something. And once I recognize that, no, I am blessed with this breath I'm breathing. I am blessed with the ability to move my limbs. I am blessed with an educate. I am blessed in ways that people don't have the things that I have. I look for ways to be grateful. I look for ways to say, thank you, life. Thank you, God. Thank you, body. I went through a diagnosis that did not take me out. So thank you. I look for ways to say thanks because I'm not old. I'm not old.
No.
I'm just grateful for every moment and every opportunity. And I
So what do
look
you
for
do?
ways.
Do you wake up in the morning? Because people want to know. I've had this asked a million times. Do you wake up in the morning and go, I'm great. Do you have like an actual habit or something that you do every day that gets you into that gratitude spirit?
Honestly, I wake up every day and one of the first things I say, and some people who know me will probably say, oh, you don't start your morning with prayer. No, I get up every day and I say, God, what are we doing today? How are we impacting lives today?
Yes.
I mean, like literally, like every day, like what are we doing? Like what are we doing? I recognize that I am in the earth for a purpose. And in looking for that purpose, I identify the things to be grateful for. For me, it's as simple as that. It's not big, it's not like rocket science. It's just, it's an intentionality, it's an
And they
awareness.
people get caught up in it has to be perfect. It's the same
Doesn't
conversation I
have to
have with
be. No,
people who
no.
are prayer or like
Yeah,
your prayer doesn't have to be perfect, your gratitude doesn't have to be perfect, but what you have to do is find a way to express it or at least think
yes.
about it. I wake up in the morning, some days I don't want to do this. I've talked about this before. I'm not feeling it. I didn't sleep the night before. I'm not feeling great. The last thing I want to do is start talking about the things I'm thankful for. That's just
Mm.
human nature. So you have to sort of make it like you people that work out. God bless you all of you that exercise. It's something that's part of you that helped, but you once you begin it, if you could start your day, in my opinion, with gratitude,
Yes,
then
yes.
that just sets the tone for your
It
day. And I
does.
love what you said, Shannan. You talk to God and you say, what is it that we're doing today? How are we going to
Yep.
make an impact today? That is so good and yet so simple that people will
Yes.
then try. They want to use the pretty words. I want to be flowery in my expression. And
No.
listen, you're going to get so caught up in the flowery part that you're missing the point of expressing the gratitude.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right, so let's talk about destiny in disguise.
The baby. I call it the baby. I call it the
It's your
baby.
baby.
It's, listen, it's God's baby. I did not want to write a book. I'll be very honest. I went through a cancer diagnosis in 2017, and everybody said, Shannan, you should write about this. And I'm like, I'm not writing a thing unless the Lord Himself insists that I write. And sure enough, last year I woke up one morning and I just knew it was time. You have to write, you know? And so it has been released. I just had the book launch today.
Woohoo!
And thank
Congratulations.
you, thank you. And I'm receiving great feedback from people who have been reading it. And let me tell you, that for me is powerful because I wrote it not just about the cancer journey, but about the things that I learned as a result of and the blessings I received. I also wrote it for, I call cancer patients or cancer survivors brave warriors, because it requires, and you know, with you sharing what you did a while ago, it requires such boldness and bravery and courage to do a cancer fight every day. I don't know if
Agreed.
people really understand that, you know. And so I wrote it for those people. I wrote it for people who want to provide support but have no idea what is considered appropriate. So I wanted to share the practical information. I wanted to share what it was like going through. I mean, I put it all out there, Ted. Oh my God, I put it all out there.
Good for you.
But I felt that, you know, why make it pretty? Just keep it real so people will understand what it looks like, and how to then show up and be present, provide the gift of presence in people's lives. I also wanted people to understand about the bone marrow transplant process, because if I did not
Yes.
have a bone marrow transplant in addition to chemo and radiation, maybe I would not have been here. And so, as a result of my experience, I wanted to increase awareness about the effectiveness of a bone marrow transplant, and to get people to sign up at the bethematch.org, which is the website and the organization that coordinates bone marrow transplants. And just to briefly share what it is, there are over 70 diseases, Ted, that can be cured and treated with a bone marrow transplant. People don't know that.
Did
and
not.
and yeah, and the reality is it is not as scary as people would assume. Thankfully for me, my own sister was deemed a partial match, and so we had the transplant on August 31st, 2017, and now we share the same DNA. And
I
here I am 3 years later.
What a blessing.
What
I
a
think it's
blessing.
I think that people, you're right. It's more about the education. When you're talking
Yes.
about bone marrow, immediately, because I was one of those people, uneducated many, many moons ago. I'm like, bone, oh God, that seems like it's gonna hurt.
Yes.
Oh my God, what does that mean to me? And I think that if we could educate people a little bit more about the process and not make it so scary and realize how incredibly impactful and life-saving
It
it
is.
can be.
Yeah.
I've seen several videos, witnessed several people when the donor meets the person who they donated to, and I get choked up
And
thinking about it.
it's all it same here, same here. It's amazing. It's amazing because people fear what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so the educator, the former professor in me, realized I had a responsibility to share, to inform, to provide instruction, and to inspire. And that's what I plan to do. That was
Well,
one of the
you're
main reasons I
obviously
wrote it.
you're doing it.
I am. I have to.
What's that like for you? Somebody just asked on one of the platforms, tell us about what you do when you have a bad day, when you're
Oh,
not feeling it, right? Because I think when they see us up here talking and we're in good moods, our energy's there, and they're like, well, God, I just don't feel that. Well, we don't all the time either, for the
exactly.
record. There are days where I'm like, okay, I just want to sleep today. That would be really nice. What do you do when you're feeling that? How do you bring yourself out of it?
Well, I will speak about what that was like during the cancer journey, but even now, I give myself permission to feel whatever I'm feeling. I own that feeling. I try not to hide it. I try not to diminish it. I give it a voice
I love
because I believe that feelings are valid. Even if they're horrible feelings, feelings are valid and should be expressed in some appropriate way. So I give myself permission to say, yeah, I'm not okay, and that's okay. Or I'll say, God, I'm not talking to you today because I really am not feeling you right now. I do that. I do. I
That is
do.
so honest. That's what
I
I
am
want people to hear.
listen,
You
Ted.
don't wake up and go, oh my
No,
God, yay, every single
no,
morning.
no. But I recognize that feelings also pass, and feelings are indicators, not dictators. So if I'm feeling a certain way, I then get to go inside and say, Shannon, what's going on here? Like, what's really happening? I'll either write about it because I express in writing and I can reflect and evaluate, or I speak. I have safe people I can share with. So if you're having a bad day, go ahead and that's okay. Your feelings are valid. Feel it. But then if you need to take appropriate action, figure out what the action is. What do you need to do to then move from that bad place to a better
Yes.
place? But it's okay to have a bad day. That's fine. That's life. That's what it is. It's
I love that
okay.
you give
Yeah.
yourself permission for that, because I think
Yes.
what happens is then if we have a bad day, we beat ourselves up about it instead of just letting the flow. But what you said is so important. You can give yourself permission. What we're trying to avoid is weeks and months and years of giving
Bad
yourself
day.
permission to
Right.
wallow
Right.
in it. We don't
Right.
want you to wallow in it. We want you to
No.
find a
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah.
yes, you can give yourself permission to be mad, sad, angry, whatever you're feeling.
Yeah.
The trick is to figure out how to allow that, give it
Yeah.
its time, and then come out on the other end.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
All right, so what is the best way? You're amazing, by the way. What is the
Oh,
best
love you too.
way that people can reach you, get your book, learn more
Yes.
about your mission, get
Yes.
to know Shannan Lewis?
Well, you can purchase Destiny in Disguise on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And a quick Google search, you'll see that there are other distributors that have it right now. But my website is ichoosetobloom.com. My Facebook page, I Choose to Bloom, and my Instagram, I Choose to Bloom. You can connect with me there. I am a connector. I am not shy, if you cannot tell. I'm not
I
really.
didn't gather that.
No, no, no. No, I love to connect with people. I look forward to opportunities to connect because I believe in mutually beneficial exchanges. I believe
Amen.
we're called to community. And so I embrace opportunities to do that. And so I just want to take this book and make sure that the right people get the messages,
Amen.
because I'm telling you, there's a lot to learn. And if people are willing to buy the book and gift the book to others, we can get the message out into the world.
Agreed. Now I understand why everyone and their brother loves you. You're amazing. Your energy's amazing. But what I love is that you're giving people need that hope, and they need to
Yes.
they need the tools to try to get past whatever it is that they are dealing with. And the dark days don't have to be dark weeks and dark months and dark years. There are ways to get out, and we're not saying it's easy,
It's
and
not.
we're not saying it doesn't take a lot of practice. But I can tell you, based on what Shannan said, I agree with her. You can absolutely do it. So I choose to bloom.com, Destiny in Disguise. For my beautiful friends over here on Instagram, it's I choose to bloom is Shannan's handle there. Shannan, thank you so much for the
Thank you,
joy and
Ted.
love you're bringing into the world. It's
Thank
amazing.
you. It's an honor. It's such an honor. I really appreciate this platform and I appreciate you. Your energy is amazing. Ah, love
Well,
it.
thank you. And thank you so much. All right, go out, get the book, reach out to Shannan. I choose to bloom.com. You guys have a great day and a beautiful Thanksgiving. We'll be back soon. Bye, everybody.